It started with peace. The kind of peace you get only after a long week of meetings, deadlines, missed meals, and one too many passive-aggressive emails. I'd finally boarded my flight, a short, 3-hour hop home, and I had scored the holy grail of airplane seating, a window seat in a quiet row. It wasn't just any window seat either. It was my seat. I'd paid for it, picked it, dreamed of it. I imagined resting my head against the cool panel, watching the clouds drift beneath us, letting the hum of the engines lull me into a half-sleep. But just as I dropped my backpack beneath the seat and clicked my belt in place, I heard it. The unmistakable, glass-rattling shriek of someone who believed the universe owed them something. Several somethings, actually. He's in our seat. The screech echoed down the jet bridge and punched its way into the cabin. Heads turned. A few passengers groaned. A baby started crying on instinct. I glanced toward the front of the plane as a pair of large figures emerged, blocking the light like a bad omen. 2 women, identical in their chaos, burst through the boarding door like twin hurricanes. Their matching floral shirts screamed of some loud vacation they weren't emotionally ready for, and their tightly stretched pink shorts did little to soften the impression. Each step made the cabin groan slightly, but it wasn't the physical weight that felt heavy. It was their energy. The drama, the tension that radiated ahead of them like a thunderclap before the lightning. Between them, barely tethered by a sticky hand and a neon green backpack, was a small boy, no older than 6. He was wailing, "Window. I want the window." He kicked the air with abandon, one shoe flying off and nearly clocking a man reading the safety card. The women didn't flinch. As they stomped down the aisle, I sank back, hoping, praying, they were headed elsewhere. Maybe another row. Maybe another flight. Maybe another continent. But they stopped. Right next to me. There he is, the louder one, Lena, I'd later learn, snapped. She jabbed a thick finger toward me. This is his seat. The other, Sela, nodded with full conviction. "Excuse me, sir," she said, with a mockery of politeness. "You're in the window. That's our little brother's spot. We're supposed to be sitting as a group." I blinked. "I think there's been a mix-up. This is seat 14A, right? That's what's on my boarding pass." Lena huffed. "We know where we're sitting. He needs the window. He gets nauseous. Motion sick. It's medically necessary." The boy let out a long, wet sneeze. Right onto the seat back in front of him. I tightened my jaw. "I understand. But I booked this seat, specifically. It's assigned." Sela clapped her hands. "Okay, but he's a child. You're a grown man. Don't you think it's kind of petty not to just switch?" Lena leaned in. "Unless you're like a monster." My heart rate started ticking up, slow and steady like a kettle starting to whistle. Around us, people began watching. Side eyes. Tilted heads. A woman across the aisle raised her eyebrows as if to say, "Here we go." "I paid extra for this seat," I said calmly. "I planned this trip around it. I'm not moving." Lena's mouth fell open like I'd insulted her ancestry. "Are you kidding me? He's 6. You're really going to make him sit in the middle like a criminal?" "Karen," Sela muttered to her sister, loud enough for the row to hear. "He's giving off Karen energy." That would have been funny if it weren't so bizarre. The little boy had now climbed onto the armrest and was attempting to wedge himself between me and the window, screeching, "Move, move, I want to see the clouds." "Ma'am," a flight attendant interjected, finally approaching with the exhausted expression of someone who'd handled too many weirdos already today. "Can I help you find your seats?" "Yes." Lena turned to her like she'd summoned reinforcements. "This man is refusing to move, so we can sit our brother by the window." The attendant checked their boarding passes. Her eyebrows lifted. "Ladies," she said gently, "your seats are actually 15B and 15C. That's the row behind him. And your brother is listed as a lap child. You didn't purchase a seat for him." Lena crossed her arms. "That's because we didn't think it would be a problem. He needs the window." Sela jumped in. "And we should be able to sit together. Isn't that the point of family travel?" The attendant didn't flinch. "Unfortunately, this gentleman is in his assigned seat. If you'd like, I can see if anyone is willing to switch with you in the back." Sela narrowed her eyes. "Why should we move? He's the one being difficult. Can't you just bump him? That's not how it works, the attendant replied flatly. Lena started recording. Say it again. Say you won't help us. I'm filming this for our lawyer. The attendant, to her credit, didn't blink. You're welcome to film, but there's nothing more I can do. Please take your seats or we'll have to delay departure. They didn't move. They stood there, creating a wall of protest with their floral shirts and pink shorts. Their little brother now flopped onto the floor in dramatic protest. People were murmuring. A few were filming now too. The vibe shifted palpably. The slow, awkward anticipation of an audience waiting for a fight to break out. Let me explain this another way, I said, still calm. I booked this seat. I'm not moving. You're asking me to give up something I paid for because you didn't plan accordingly. Lena flared. You're just doing this because we're women. Sela added, fatphobic probably. That hit like a backhanded slap. The ridiculousness of it made me audibly exhale. I sat back, folded my arms, and waited. The flight attendant repeated the offer again. You can take your assigned seats or be removed. That did it. Lena huffed, grabbed her brother, who started wailing again, and stormed back one row. Sela followed, throwing me a daggered glare as she passed. But even as they sat, they didn't stop. Loud comments. Elbows jabbing the back of my seat. The occasional dramatic sigh. And then Sela leaned forward and muttered just loud enough. Real piece of work, this guy. I didn't react. I couldn't. That's when I realized something deeper. They weren't just entitled. They were theatrical. They wanted a scene. Maybe even a lawsuit. Maybe just a social media tantrum. Whatever it wasn't about the window. It was about control. I watched the wing outside glint under the afternoon sun, trying to settle in, but the tension behind me buzzed like static. The boy threw something, maybe a cookie, at the back of my head. I didn't flinch. I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. If they wanted a scene, I'd give them a stage. Quietly, carefully, I tapped record. Turned the lens toward my lap. Their voices carried just fine, without visual. Sela was already ranting to the man beside her about this psycho, and how entitled some people are. Lena leaned into the aisle and shouted toward the front, "Can we get a supervisor or something? This isn't over." I smiled slightly. No, I thought. No, it definitely isn't. The engine hum had just begun to rise when Sela's voice pierced through the air again, sharp as broken glass. This is outrageous. Absolutely disgusting behavior. She wasn't talking to anyone in particular, but loud enough that the entire cabin could hear. A few passengers exchanged annoyed glances. The flight hadn't even left the gate, and already the mood was sour, thick with tension, like the stale air of a locked room on a summer day. I stared out the window, jaw set, eyes fixed on the tarmac, as if I could will the plane to move faster just by looking. Behind me, the boy was banging his tray table up and down like it was a toy. The plastic clacked with each slam. His sisters did nothing. Lena leaned forward, her pudgy fingers gripping the top of my seat. Her breath was hot with some artificial cherry gum and irritation. "You still feel good about yourself?" she asked. "Taking joy in making a child cry? A grown man picking fights with women and children. Nice." I didn't answer. There was nothing I could say that they'd actually hear. I'd already explained the seat was mine. I had offered nothing but calm. But with people like this, calm wasn't a solution. It was gasoline on a fire. The flight attendant passed by again, doing her safety check. She glanced toward me, and I met her eyes for just a second. Her look said everything. She knew. She knew this wasn't just about a seat. This was about principle, about performance, about control. "We're going to file a complaint," Sela announced loudly to no one, pulling out her phone. "And you better hope Delta, or whoever, sides with you, because trust me, they won't." The plane began to taxi. A collective sigh of relief passed through the rows. Maybe the engines would drown them out. Maybe altitude would silence their screeches. Maybe gravity would crush their audacity. But as we picked up speed, the show escalated. Lena suddenly clutched her stomach. "Oh God, I'm feeling sick. I told you, he needs the window. He gets motion sickness, and now I think I'm catching it. He's traumatized, Sela chimed in. We'll have to explain all of this to his therapist. If he ever recovers. The boy, still not buckled, was now climbing between their laps, giggling, occasionally shrieking, I want juice. I want window. A sharp ding came over the intercom. Seatbelt sign on. Cabin dimmed. And still, they were bickering, mumbling passive-aggressively, just loud enough to keep the pressure on. My phone buzzed. The video I had uploaded, only a couple minutes long, a quiet capture of their screaming fit at the gate, was starting to pick up traction. 32 comments. Over 1,000 views. One tweet, copied and reposted by someone else, had gone mini-viral. Imagine demanding a window seat for your kid when you didn't even buy him a seat. I cracked a slow smile and tucked the phone away. Let them dig. I wasn't going to lift a finger. They were doing all the work for me. 20 minutes into the flight, Lena flagged down the attendant again. Excuse me, she said, over-enunciating like the woman was deaf. Can we please have a compassionate seat change now? He's crying. You see him crying, right? The kid was actually chewing on a packet of peanuts and humming the theme to Paw Patrol. No crying. No trauma. No nausea. The attendant kept her tone professional, but it was getting thinner by the minute. As I mentioned before, the flight is fully booked. There are no other window seats available. Then make someone switch, Sela barked. He's a child. We can't force another passenger to give up their seat. Lena pulled out her phone. I'm filming this. I want your name. You're going to be on the news. The attendant didn't flinch. That's fine, ma'am. Please return to your seat. They huffed. The boy burped. I exhaled slowly, keeping my eyes on the clouds. Still, it wasn't over. A few minutes later, Lena leaned forward again and coughed dramatically toward my shoulder. No mask. No manners. What a combo, she muttered. I could feel the guy in the aisle seat next to me shift uncomfortably. I didn't blame him. This wasn't an argument anymore, it was a siege. They weren't just trying to get the seat. They were trying to wear me down, break my composure, paint themselves as victims while publicly framing me as some kind of villain. Sela loudly narrated what she claimed was happening. He's ignoring us. Look at him. Completely heartless. The boy is being emotionally abused right in front of him, and he's just staring out the window like nothing's happening. Someone 2 rows up actually chuckled. A woman a few seats behind me whispered, "Oh my God, get over it," loud enough to be heard. But they didn't stop. They escalated. The boy grabbed a crayon from somewhere and started drawing directly on my seat back. Thick blue scribbles. I turned slightly and raised an eyebrow. You gonna say something to a 6-year-old? Lena challenged. Really? You that desperate? I turned back to the window. Silence was the only power I had left. But silence has its limits. I pulled my phone back out and opened Twitter. Uploaded the second video. This one showing the boy climbing between seats while Lena shouted at a flight attendant. I added a caption. Same women. Same kid. Same seat. Same entitlement. Karen twins. Posted. Within minutes, it gained traction. I watched likes and retweets pile up like snow in a blizzard. People chimed in with GIFs, hashtags, angry comments. Some even recognized the women. Apparently, they'd gone viral before for harassing a waitress about ranch dressing at a Chili's. That video had been deleted, but the internet never forgets. One user posted a side-by-side clip. Lena throwing a drink on a restaurant floor. Sela screaming at a hostess. Same floral shirts. Same shrill voices. I didn't even have to fight back. They had already built the case for me. All I had to do was make it public. The plane shook slightly with turbulence. A few overhead bins rattled. Sela shrieked like we'd hit a mountain. See? He's cursed this flight. I said he was toxic energy. Another round of laughter from the cabin. Someone actually clapped. The flight crew was clearly reaching the end of their patience. The lead attendant returned with a clipped expression. Ladies, she said, crouching by their row, this is your final warning. Disruptive behavior will be documented and submitted to TSA upon landing. Lena gasped like she was witnessing a crime. We're the victims here. You're harassing a fellow passenger. The attendant said flatly. You've been recorded by multiple people. I suggest you stop while you still can. They didn't reply, but they finally quieted, for maybe 2 minutes. Then the whispering began. Passive-aggressive muttering, fake coughing, the occasional kick to the back of my seat. And through it all, the little brother babbled about clouds and cartoons and juice. I didn't say a word, but the internet did. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from a friend. Dude, you're on the front page of Reddit. Sure enough, someone had reposted the videos to our /public freakout. Thousands of upvotes, screenshots, threads of commentary. This guy's a hero. Karens lose again. These women need to be banned from flying forever. I scrolled for a moment, then locked the screen and slid the phone back in my bag. Let them whisper. Let them think they're winning. They had no idea the storm they'd already unleashed. Just as I settled deeper into the seat, the boy reached forward, slapped the window, and yelled, "We're in the air." Everyone around us jumped. Sela cackled like it was hilarious. Lena called him a future pilot. I looked straight ahead, calm, steady, because now this wasn't just a seat dispute. This was a ticking clock. And when we landed, I had a feeling karma was going to be waiting at the gate. Somewhere over Kansas, the sky outside burned gold. The sun dipped low, brushing the clouds with fire, but inside the cabin, the air had only gotten thicker. Sela was now reclining into the lap of chaos, and Lena had started opening and closing the overhead vent above her like it was a personal attack that wouldn't stop blowing. They'd gone quiet for a time, but not out of surrender, just the stillness predators assume before they lunge again. I felt it coming before it happened. Another cough. Another muttered complaint about toxic masculinity, and how women can't even exist without being assaulted by ego. The kid had fallen asleep across their laps, drooling onto Lena's elbow, which only seemed to worsen her mood. Then I felt it, something wet on my shoulder. I turned. A half-chewed gummy bear. Red. Sticky. Smeared across the fabric like a curse. Oh, must have been the kid, Sela said with a fake gasp, not even attempting sincerity. Sorry. He sleep drops. I didn't respond. I simply picked it off with a napkin, dropped it on her tray table, and returned my eyes to the window. But that was the final straw. For them. Lena suddenly stood up, hitting the call button with such force the light above us flickered. I need a supervisor. Now. The flight attendant appeared like a weary ghost. What's the issue, ma'am? Lena pointed at me with both hands like she was accusing me of smuggling explosives. He's harassing us. Filming us. Staring. Making our child uncomfortable. Assaulting us with glares. The attendant raised an eyebrow. Filming is permitted unless it violates safety. It's a hate crime. Sela barked. I've done nothing to you, I said, finally breaking my silence, my voice steady but firm. You've harassed me since before we took off. You tried to steal my seat, insulted me, allowed your brother to vandalize my belongings, and now you're lying. There was a beat of silence. Then came the final dagger. A male passenger across the aisle, balding, quiet till now, spoke up. I've been watching this entire thing. He hasn't said a word to you since takeoff. You've been tormenting him. Another voice, 2 rows back. They've been filming him for an hour. A ripple moved through the cabin. People chimed in. He's done nothing wrong. Those 2 wouldn't stop screaming about seat justice. I heard them say they'd sue him for not moving. Sela's face twisted as if someone had slapped her. Lena took a deep breath, as if deciding between attack and retreat. She chose poorly. This entire plane is sexist and complicit in enabling this man's abuse. The attendant didn't blink. Noted. You'll be escorted upon landing. That shut them up. But the silence wasn't peace. It was anticipation. Because, as we began our descent, the stakes became more visible, literally. Outside the window, runway lights shimmered in the dusk. Inside the cabin, passengers quietly packed their belongings. But the phones, the phones were ready. Several were already recording. Not just me anymore. Everyone. The flight had turned into a theater, And the twins were the lead actresses in a tragic play they didn't know was ending. As the wheels kissed the ground and we slowed to taxi, a calm voice came over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to remind you to remain seated until the aircraft has come to a complete stop at the gate. Authorities will be meeting the aircraft due to a reported onboard disturbance. Lena's head whipped toward Sela. Sela stared ahead, frozen. Their brother stirred, rubbed his eyes, and muttered, "Where's the window?" Lena hissed, "What did you do?" "I didn't do anything." Sela whispered, "You're the one who called the flight attendant a fascist." "I said she acted like a fascist." "You threw pretzels at him." "They hit me first." "You're insane." I sat still, enjoying the quiet unraveling. The plane reached the gate. The doors clicked. And then, like vultures, the consequences came in. 2 TSA agents and a woman in an airport security vest stepped aboard, flanked by a gate agent holding clipboard. They walked straight down the aisle. "Lena and Sela Harper?" the lead agent asked. Lena stood, defiant. "This is harassment. We're the victims." The agent didn't budge. "You've been reported by multiple passengers and the crew. We need to have a conversation before you board." Sela stood, clutching her brother like a shield. "This is unconstitutional. Ma'am, please step aside." They were escorted up the aisle. Cameras filmed. Passengers clapped, actual applause. Someone let out a high-pitched "bye," and others giggled. I stood to collect my bag. One of the flight attendants handed me a small card, apology from the airline and a flight voucher. She smiled and in a low voice said, "You handled it better than most." As I exited the jet bridge, I could still hear them yelling in the terminal. "But he filmed us first." "We're bloggers." That was content. "You'll hear from our lawyer." I didn't look back. Outside, I leaned against a cold steel pillar and checked my phone. 1.4 million views. Over 100,000 shares. Dozens of reaction videos already. People were quoting my captions. Someone even started a petition to ban the sisters from flying. Then I saw it, a link to a live TikTok. It was Lena. "Okay guys, obviously a lot of you have seen clips that are taken out of context," she began, sweaty and flushed in the terminal with airport security behind her. "We were just trying to stand up for a child. Okay." Sela jumped in, and this man was like hostile. But the comments, they were brutal. "You screamed at a stranger over a window seat you didn't pay for. Entitlement isn't a medical condition. You lost. Sit down." The live stream ended abruptly. I tucked my phone away, finally smiled, and made my way toward the exit. Later that evening, back home, I watched the chaos unfold from my couch. News aggregators picked it up. Karen twins try to bully passenger, get publicly dragged. Hashtags trended. Karen window fight by Felicia Flight, Sky Justice. I even got an invite to do a podcast interview, which I declined. Some battles are better remembered than relived. A week later, a final twist. I got a message from a flight attendant on Instagram. Guess who got banned from the airline for 2 years? Attached was a blurry photo taken from inside a terminal. Lena and Sela, standing by the customer service counter, faces red, fists clenched, as a manager waved goodbye. I didn't respond. I just sat back, closed the app, and let the silence return. That window seat? Still mine. And this time, the view wasn't just clouds. It was justice, cruising at 35,000 feet. If you enjoyed watching karma unfold at 35,000 feet, don't forget to hit that like button and share this video with someone who loves a good justice story. Got thoughts on the Karen twins? Drop a comment below. We read every one. And if you want more jaw-dropping real-life tales like this, make sure to subscribe. You won't want to miss what's coming next.